I am on a journey towards discovering higher versions of myself. And just like every journey, it gets pretty lonely sometimes. This is why I've made it a goal to bring as many people as I can on this personal development journey towards higher versions of themselves, towards achieving that dream life, towards fulfilling your purpose, towards being all that you can be. No more mediocrity, no more playing it small. I am Judith Bengo, and this is the JM Show.
JM Chivas, today I have with me a young African leader, Ivarah, and he's doing really, really amazing work. There's a lot that we can learn from him. Ivarah founded an NGO which is called Church on the Street and just recently started his NGO consulting business. So everyone, welcome Ivarah to the show today. How are you doing today, Itofa?
I'm doing pretty great, Judith. I'm very excited to be out here, share and learn and enjoy this conversation. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So, I like to start all my interviews from the beginning, like taking my audience back to your journey, how you started, how the big idea came about, because most people tend to just kill their ideas or they don't stay through with it. So, how did Church on the Street start? All that you are now, all that you're doing now, how did you get started with all that?
All right, great. So thank you very much. And I'm going to start with a story, right? Because I'm a storyteller. It's part of the things I do as a speaker, right? But I was in an interview about 2 days ago with the ministry in New York, and they asked the same question: how did it all start? How did you tell us? The truth is, I was born in what you call extreme poverty. My mom is a tailor. My dad is a civil servant with the government of Nigeria. My mom said to me that Itofa, when you were a little baby, we were so poor that we couldn't afford to buy you baby food. And growing up for me as a child, I grew up in some of the most hard and difficult conditions. As a little boy of 6 years old, I remember very clearly seeing my mother crying, in the middle of the night. And why was she crying? She was crying because there was no food. At 15 years old, I was in SS1 and I was kicked out of school because of tuition. We couldn't afford to pay school fees. I have seen my dad go and drive buses just so that we could have food on the table, as a family. And so even as a little baby, we were so poor that I didn't have toys to play with. I couldn't even watch cartoons growing up because my parents couldn't afford it. But then there was something they had that they put in me, which was intangible. Yes, I couldn't afford toys. Yes, we couldn't, eat all the best meals or travel on vacations or go to, some of the best schools in the world. But there was something that they were inculcating in me. And I remember as a little baby, my mom would put her hands on my head and say to me, Itofa, men will come to draw from you. You are a reservoir. Itofa, you are a blessing to nations. And I remember very clearly as a 6-year-old boy, she would pray for us and tell us to say those prayers repeatedly. And I would go on saying those same prayers for 5 years, And today, even when I still get on the phone with her, I'm like, Mommy, I'm a reservoir. Men will come to draw from me and will laugh over it. Right? So for me growing up, the experiences was my threshing floor. It was my grooming stage where God was preparing me for what He wanted me to do in the future. So I needed to experience hunger. I needed to experience poverty. I needed to experience what it feels like to be kicked out of school just so that I can help the children we are helping today at Church on the Street. When we go out today, whether it's feeding children in Lagos, whether it's feeding children in Kaduna, whether it's going out to the street in Spain or Canada to help these children, I'm not doing it because I read it somewhere. I'm not doing it because somebody said, go and feed hungry children. Every time we help these children, I'm helping little Itofa because I have been there. I know what it feels like to be there. So my experiences growing up as a child were my foundation and my molding block that set me up on this whole new path that I'm in today.
That's touching and that's amazing at the same time. It's amazing that you could take something that was a huge challenge, living your life, and then translating it to help other people. So I want to know, okay, you said your parents gave you like intangibles. Was that all you really got in terms of like shaping your mindset? Because I know a lot of people who come from that kind of background and they can't really find their way anymore. They just get lost. So was it the intangibles that really helped you stay grounded, or were there other things that helped at that time?
I believe very much that for you to go from where you are right now to where you need to get to, there has to be a mindset. There has to be a mindset shift. Or yes, you don't have money in your pocket. Yes, you're living in an environment that is entirely disadvantaged, but you can upgrade your mind. So a huge part of the things that happened to me was my parents are Christians. My parents are believers, right? And so they would constantly, as a little boy, they would constantly feed and insert the word of God in my mind. So imagine not having been able to eat breakfast, but then you're being told that you'll be a reservoir where men will come to draw. So if you are conscious, there has to be a mental uplift that would happen to you. So that happened with me, but another thing that also happened was the fact that I was reading. I read a lot. I remember one of the very first books I read, my mother's book, was Never Give Up by Joyce Meyer. She made me read it. Wow. I think I was probably
Mommy's an icon.
He's an icon. Yeah. I read Never Give Up by Joyce Meyer. That was one of those books I read that, even though I didn't understand some of the huge vocabularies they were using, but I knew that they were talking about eagles and average people and how eagles are not like the normal regular people and how eagles don't eat rotten food and many things like that. I'm like, there has to be more. And so that was really big for me. So I was reading books and I was in an environment, even though it wasn't the best environment, but my parents were intentionally conditioning me to ensure that we were hearing the right things and feeding from the right things.
That's amazing. Even earlier when I asked about like practices you've honed so far, I feel like you touched on this, talked about a relationship with God, and I feel that's something that we cannot overlook. I feel that's something that everyone should strive to get. So you sent me this citation. You said, the setback in my life were all a setup for a punchline purpose. Today I can connect those dots looking backwards. I feel like you've touched on this, but what does this quote really mean to you? If you can give us a practical example, that would be fine.
Yeah. So one of my favorite speakers I like to listen to is Michael Jr. Michael Jr. is a Christian comedian, and there's a TED talk he made where he said that your setback is a setup for a punchline, right? And I remember clearly growing up as a child, my parents would constantly remind me that I'm different. I am different. But I didn't understand how I was different. Seeing the fact that I was in a very disadvantaged community. I mean, we're living in what you call in Nigeria, face me, I face you. That was what we're living. I remember clearly at, I think 6 years old, we're living in an apartment where it was a one-room apartment, right? We're sharing toilet. Our kitchen was outside, and it was one bedroom, and there was just a curtain that was demarcating the bedroom from the living room. I told you we couldn't even afford to watch that thing, right? So that was how do you tell a child that a child is different in that environment? It wasn't connecting, right? We getting kicked out of school, suffering from low self-esteem. Those were my setbacks. Those were my setbacks in my mind's eye. But in God's eye, they were set up for my speaking engagements today. They are set up for all the many great things that God has been doing with my life at just 22 years old, So it's really, 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 really what I'll just describe the favor of God by and large.
Amazing. But from all that you said, it boils down to one quality I like to practice sometimes, and people call it brutal. But most times I just say there are no excuses. There are no excuses, because whatever excuse you have, someone has pushed past that. So it's possible for you to, through the help of God, push past that excuse. So I really like what you're saying. Tell us about your project, Church on the Street, and also chipping ways that we can contribute to the amazing work that you're doing. How can we partner with you and stuff like that?
So for starters, I just want to say thank you, because for me, it's been a season of, I've been jumping back and forth with interviews and, podcasts back and forth. Like, this is like my third podcast in the week.
Really?
I've had one in the UK, New York, and I'm having one with you now. And I'm really grateful to you guys that you're giving us this platform to talk about the things we're doing. So Church on the Street is a Christian humanitarian organization that's, set up in Nigeria. And our mission is to see how can we provide warm meals for vulnerable women and children. There are mothers who are working extra hard, but they can't put food on the table, just like my mom couldn't afford to buy me baby food. And these women are crying every night. They're trying their best, but the environment is just not nurturing enough. How can we provide warm meals for them? How can we tell their children, their beautiful babies, their beautiful sons and daughters, that everything will be all right? That the fact that you don't have food today, the fact that you don't have toys today, doesn't mean God doesn't love you. He loves you, and we are your big brothers and big sisters from church on the street. We want you guys to know that everything will be all right. If God can do what He's done with me, He can do more for you. So that's who we are. And we started as a team of just 4 friends in the University of Benin, and I had only 4,000 naira in my bank account. The story is very long, right? But let me just summarize it. I had only 4,000 naira in my bank account, and my dream was to save up that money. So, because I was in my second year in the university, my dream was to save up that money so that by the time I graduate, I would have a lot of money to fall back to start a business with. And I remember clearly when I heard in my spirit that God wanted me to help people. Wanted me to help. What the instruction God told me was, I want you to take the gospel closer to the people. It was an impression in my heart in my second year. And I was waking up this morning. The next thing I knew was, you are going to give all of this to church on the street. I'm like, my 4K that took me 6 months to save, I will give everything. 4K, 4K was a lot of money, And, to cut long story short, we put it in the non-profit. We started, just myself and 4 friends that were in the same class. And to the glory of God, we've grown from just a team of 4 friends who started in the University of Benin into a team of 650 people in 11 communities in Nigeria, Spain, and Canada. So we have all of these people from different parts of the world who are a part of the community. Today we're in Lagos, Ekiti, Abuja, Benin, Ilorin, Nasarawa, Jos, Benue. There are teams scattered everywhere doing different community projects in these cities. To think that we started with just 4 people with 4,000 naira, and we've been able to raise over 1 million in fundraising that helped us serve 2,000 families in the last 2 years. So it's been an incredible journey of learning. People can see Instagram posts on like, you guys are doing amazing, but nobody knows about the tears you cry behind the days you have heart attack.
You need to raise money. You cry a lot. Yeah.
But then it's been an incredible journey, and maybe if you get to ask me questions related to my consulting project that I'm currently working on, I'll probably get a touch on that for people who are starting non-profits. And it's been an incredible journey, learning, serving the communities. Every time we get out to bless these people, the smiles on their faces, the people who are crying, the people who are saying, my goodness, I didn't have food, you guys are angels from God. It's a privilege to be that blessing. And we currently have a project coming up in December, 19th of December, in a community called Masaka in Abuja, I think here in Nasarawa State, and it's called Big Smile Project. So we thought about the well over 1,697 children who are not going to have homes on Christmas Day, who are not going to have toys to play with, who will not have somebody to tell them, let's go and have fun. What if we can take Christmas toys to these kids? What if we can take groceries and food supplies to these families that would last them up until January and let them know that Jesus loves them? And so Big Smile Project is focused on providing smiles. We want to create smiles for families who will not be able to afford, homeless families who will not be able to afford Christmas toys for their kids, who will not be able to provide food supplies for their children. And so with just a simple donation of 1,000 naira, a family would have this provision to take them till January, because every donation that's going to be made is going to be doubled. So with 1,000 naira 1 family, 5,000 naira 5 families, 20,000 naira 20 families, so that's what we're doing right now.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And then thank you for not holding tight to your 4K. Thank you for making your 4K multiply into something else. I feel the normal human tendency, like for us, is just to hoard, is to say, okay, what can it be for me? But I feel like there's so much more for other people, and it's only when you can let it go that you get to see what it can become. So really, thank you so much. So yeah, about the consulting business, I was going to come to that, because how do you move from starting your own NGO and then being confident that, oh, hey, come, I want to consult for you. So how do you move? How was that journey like for you? And what's the process like? What does it entail? And how can people get in on this?
All right. So that's very interesting, because even me, I'm still coming to the reality that, I'm now a consultant, I'm now a non-profit management consultant. It's still I'm still trying to get used to it. But how did I come from the guy who started a non-profit at 19 years old and now a management consultant working with non-profit in the UK, in the US, and in Nigeria. Well, it's I feel like the hard knock of life will teach you certain things that the books will not teach you. So today when I'm working with clients, I'm not saying something I read. It's something I've been I've been through this path, I've walked through this road, and I know what works and I know what doesn't work. So if you're starting out, that's why I don't work with big non-profits. I work with medium and small non-profits. If you're starting out, I have all your solutions pretty much at my fingertips. And if you're ready to work with me, why not? So how can people get to work with me? So I run a company called ID Consulting, and what we do is we help medium and small NGOs understand the non-profit market, gain visibility, and increase donor retention. Basically, our primary job is to help you stay alive, because statistics currently has that it takes only 3 out of 7 NGOs will last their first 18 months. Oh, wow. Do you know what it means to be coughing out money from your pocket to do a cost that the whole world is supposed to be supporting you for? I mean, if you're feeding hungry children, you shouldn't be doing it alone. The whole world should come and give you their money to do it. But if you don't have the right tools, if you don't have the right skill set, if you don't understand communication, if you don't understand branding, you will not survive. You will keep bringing out money from your throat and you'll get tired at some point. Today, we're able to do all of the things we're doing, not because I'm a multi-millionaire. I'm not a millionaire yet, but we're getting there shortly.
Definitely.
Not because I'm that yet, but because I'm able to understand that I can't do this thing alone. And so we needed to strategically position ourselves so that we can get support from around the world. So my job as a consultant is to help people who want to start and don't know how to start. So I'm currently working with individuals, around from in Nigeria, and some non-profits who are set up in the UK who need restructuring, who need to understand communication tone, and I'm doing that for them. So, and then there's one-on-one coaching sessions where I get to answer questions. I get to literally walk people through the path, and then there is trainings, paid trainings where people pay for trainings, and for like the 4 Saturdays in October, I'm currently working with more than a handful of NGOs who want to understand what it takes to raise money for your non-profit. So there's coaching, there's training, and then there's free webinars for Zoom. And then my book is coming out very soon. How to raise money for your non-profit like a 6-year-old. So it's still
Amazing. I mean, this is good work, and I would urge everyone to jump on it, because starting is one thing, making it sustainable, helping it scale is another different thing. Nothing beats experience. It's different when you read something, and it's different when you actually live it out. So guys, please jump on this offer, jump on this train. So there's something about you that really struck me. So one of the practices you sent to me, you said you build sustainable relationships with people. And I studied you. I won't say I stalked you, but then I studied you and I noticed that you actually have relationships with really notable people. How can a young person position themselves for this type of relationships? Like 1 or 2 tricks that has worked for you, and how do you sustain it? It's one thing to start the relationship, it's another thing to sustain it. So how does that work in your space?
Right. So first of all, I'm going to say this because I've been getting emails and DMs from people, and they'll tell you, please, I want you to mentor me. I used to be like that before. But I mean, there's a certain level you get into, and you just have sense. Sense just enters you, right? And I want to tell you, the very first instruction I'm going to tell any young person who's listening today is try to be a person of value first. Make sure you have value yourself. If, for instance, now Judith, I come to Judy that I want her to mentor me, for instance. If she does a background check, she would almost want to say yes to mentor me, because I've been able to build some level of value for myself, right? So one of the very first things you want to do is you want to be a person of value. You want to be a person of value. And so many times, the Bible says time and chance will happen to them all. Every single person that's currently listening right now, a day will come where an opportunity that will change your life would happen. But the question is, are you going to be ready? Are you going to be strategically positioned?
Yeah.
So first of all, it boils down to the things you're putting out on social media. What are you putting out? Is this something you can come back 10 years later and I'm proud of the things I put out? It's not enough to put a fine picture. It's not enough to put out a fine quote. But the question is, does this resonate with who you are? So there's a book I would recommend by Simon Sinek, Start With Why. That book did a complete brain surgery to my life. All right. So if you need mentorship, because you're going to get opportunities, you will meet with notable people in your life. So your goal should be, how do I become a person of value? So ask yourself, what problems am I solving in my community? What kind of solution can I offer to these people? Right? So that when they say, I know XYZ, they'll be like, I mean, XYZ is doing XYZ as well. So he's a great guy, he's a great young man, she's a great young woman. To be a person of value, number one. Number two, be constantly tell yourself that you're a person of value, because it's one thing to know you have value, another thing to actually realize it. I struggled with self-esteem a lot, in the past, and I didn't really believe that I had anything to offer anybody. I didn't really believe people would even pay attention to me. I didn't have anything to offer. Now I'm just a guy from the poor community. What do I have to offer? But you will not believe the type of people who come to me now, who want to hear my advice. It happened because I consciously started rewiring my brain that I'm a person of value. I give value. So from affirmations, I'm a person of value. I'm a person of value. I give value. Kings come to the brightness of my rising. And so all of this consciousness, it began to rewire what my environment had told me, what my experiences had told me, and it was overriding it. And so when I come into a place of what you call greatness, I know that I'm also a great person. And so I deliver from that stream, from that outflow of knowing that I am valuable as well.
Absolutely.
So, yes.
Absolutely. I totally agree with what you said. And even when you talk about the esteem something, I can totally relate to it because I've been there and I know how it's like to come from that place into now understanding that, okay, I'm a genius. I'm actually valuable. Like before, I used to hear people say some things and I'm like, are you talking about me? But then you really need to embrace the value that you are. You really need to embrace your genius before you can actually shine your light more. And for me, getting out of that place, building my esteem, I'm still a work in progress, but building my esteem, lending my voice out, all started with me exposing myself to a certain type of people, me paying for my development, me paying for my personal development, me paying in terms of time, in terms of money, and all that. And I know there is a should I say a pandemic now? Everybody's saying, oh, coaching, mentoring, reading books and everything. What do they have to offer me? I can't speak on it, but I want you to tell my audience about the value of actually investing in yourself, investing in your mind, because you would never really know how much of a genius you are till you actually do some of all these things. So I believe that you do some of these things, you invest in yourself. So how valuable is that, and why should someone do it? I know the answer, but I believe someone should hear it from you.
So I believe there's an array of audience we're currently speaking with. So if you're probably a young person, or you're in your mid-40s, or you're probably in your 50s, wherever you are, you're listening, I want to let you know that your mind cannot evolve, your mind cannot grow without giving it and feeding it with the information. So I can wake up in the morning and hang out with Stephen R. Covey. I can wake up in the afternoon and decide I want to have a conversation with Barack Obama. I can wake up that today I want to talk with Robin Sharma, who's far away in Canada. These are great men. And I'm here in Nigeria, but I can hang out with these people. Why? I can pick their brain. Why? Because I have access to their books, right? So this is just like a fraction of some of the things that I'm consuming. Because I understand that the only way you'll be 10 times ahead of the people you say you want to be like, or you want to be getting into certain circles, you need to feed your mind. You need to study. If you can afford it, pay for classes, pay for coaching if you can. But if you can't, that's also still a yardstick. There's a website called pdfdrive.net. You can download any book you're looking for. During the pandemic, I read close to 12, 13 books from pdfdrive.net. And I was not normal again. My brain had cooked. I was not normal. I was not thinking straight again. So it's let me even share this experience with you. People will help somebody. You see, your mind your mind is so powerful. It's one of the greatest tools God ever gave you. Stephen R. Covey, in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said that there's what you call the law of double creation. Everything you see in the physical realm happens in your mind, first of all. Anything that you see happening in your life right now is an expression of what's in your mind. If there is anything you don't have now, is because you haven't thought about it. I remember the very first time I flew in a plane, right? You know where I came from. So I remember the very first time I flew in a plane, and I was already dreaming. I was seeing myself in dreams. I was flying. And the day it finally happened, right? I was in my second year already. The day it finally happened, it was not new to me because I had already conditioned my mind. And so there is somebody right now who is saying, man, I've not flown before. Oh my goodness, I can't afford it. That's why you will never get it.
Oh wow. Wow.
I'm using this very simple analogy because maybe there are people who are listening and I don't want to go too high. Just anybody can relate to it.
Yes,
You've not had it because you're thinking, because that's what your thinking faculty has been able to be clogged with. Napoleon Hill. I'm currently reading a book by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, rather, The Power of Positive Thinking, and he said, if you think lack, all you would have is lack. Because you think you do not have, it blocks the flow of creativity on how to get it.
Wow.
I currently have like a flight for 3 p.m. on Saturday, to travel back home. And I remember in the past, this was like, oh, how do I get here? How do I get this? But because I've been able to take my mind from a place of, I can actually get it. I can do this. I can have this. I started attracting this thing. I started attracting the type of resources that will get it. I started attracting the type of people who will be able to pay for me. I started attracting the kind of places I can condition myself to. If you don't read, you will not know. If you don't read, you will not know.
Say that again. Oh my God. Someone needs to hear it.
Please read. It pays to read. Don't go a day. At least 40 minutes a day. Sit with a book. This is one of my favorite books. It's called 101 Guide to Greatness by Robin Sharma.
Okay.
And it's so beautiful, honestly. And everybody, just 40 minutes a day. When I wake up in the morning, or when I have consultation with clients, and I'm just free in the middle, I just pick it up and do 40 minutes. I'll just time myself 40 minutes. And I've done something for the day, and your mind is growing. So yeah.
Amazing. Oh my God. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, because you always put it down to the point that there are no excuses, basically. There are no excuses. You may not be able to get this now, but you can get that now. So why don't you do that? Because it all amounts to the same thing. And when you do that, you'll be able to build yourself up and afford the other things that you cannot. I'd like you to just speak to my audience. Is there anything you want to share that maybe during the course of the interview you've not talked about, or just anything, and something targeted towards a young person would be really great?
All right. So, my dear young friend, my name is Ivarah Itofa, and I just want to tell you that you can be everything and anything your heart has ever thought of. If you think about going to Harvard University, you can get to Harvard University. It doesn't matter if your parents are selling akara on the street or your dad is a shoemaker, you can get to Harvard University. If you can break the holds of what's limiting your mind, the world is a stepping stone for you. The world is a stepping stone for you. Who would believe that a child whose parents couldn't afford to buy him baby food today will be jumping on interviews with international communities and international organizations? I didn't tell you that I'm a fellow with the United Nations. I got accepted in 2020, and I'm currently working with the United Nations as a fellow from Nigeria, with other about 80 countries, young people from 80 countries. Who would believe? So I want to tell you that you can be anything you want to be. Stop comparing yourself. Everybody has their path to run. Everybody has their journey. Don't compare yourself. Somebody may be looking at me like, this guy, oh God, I'm wasting my life. Please, 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 do not feel that way. Who knows what you're supposed to be doing? What you're doing is different from what I've been called to do. And we all have different timelines. So don't get frustrated by the fact that, this guy is doing so much. I haven't even started. I am telling you, we all have different journeys. So I see young people there are two types of people you find on Instagram. You have the consumers and you have the creators. There are people who come on there to check sleep pictures, check who is trending. and all of that, Big Brother and all of that. And then there are people who are sitting in their study and they're thinking about what content can I create today to add value to somebody's life. Yeah. Why don't you begin to add value to people's life? Mm-hmm. The only reason I accepted this interview is because I went to do a background research on you and I realized that, okay, you're a valuable person. I mean, I want to associate with you. I checked out your website. I saw your book. I downloaded it. I haven't read it yet, but that's part of the things I'm going to do probably on my trip back, on my flight back. So mm-hmm. it's about constantly knowing that your future is in your hands. 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 Never forget that your future is in your hands. It's not in the hands of an uncle who's living in the UK. It's not in the hands of Nigerian government. I go to a public university. We've been on strike, but guess what? I was able to take courses with King's College London. I was able to take courses with the University of Leeds in the UK, and I've got my certifications and my degrees from Phil. I mean, so it's not in anybody's hands. It's in your hands. It's in your hands. So I want to encourage you to please seize it. And I will not close without saying this. Only Jesus can add meaning to a person's life. Everything I have said, talk about inspiring you, reading books. My brother, you will read books, nothing will happen in your life. You will read all the books in the world, nothing will happen to you. Mm-hmm. God has been able to give me this much relevance because my heart is sold out to Him. And it's a privilege that I'm His servant to do all the things He's doing. All right? So I want you to know that you cannot do anything without God. So if you're still, see, you hustle. I hate the word hustle and I don't use the word hustle. It's not in my dictionary. I'm not a hustler. I'm a blessed working man. I'm not a hustler. So you need to see this. You will continue to hustle. So there's a conversation I used to have with my friends. I say, guy, see, we will walk like ants and eat like elephants. You don't want to know how much people pay me today to consult for them. And all I need to do is talk to you. And you pay me, write me a check. And I'll talk to you. I could be chilling on my bed, sitting in a chair with AC blowing my head, and you will pay me my money. That's walking like an ant and eating like an elephant. And it came with the grace of God. And so there is somebody listening to me now. You don't need to work very hard. All you need to do is run to God. Ask Him, what's my purpose? Why am I here? He would open you up. And you'll be a light that would shine in your environment. You'll be a light that would shine in your community. Men will come to you and say, I want to associate with you because you're doing something tangible. And when they come to you, you will lead them back to the Maker, which is Jesus Christ, which is our Father in heaven, God. And so please, everything we've said will not make sense without reminding you that Jesus needs you. We want you to be part of the community. All right. So thank you very much, Judy. I had a great time, speaking with you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. And I totally agree with what you said about taking responsibility and remembering that all of this will make no sense without God. Because I always consider myself, and I always tell people, I say, you're a co-creator with God. Like walk in that awesomeness. Do not, people just feel like they are victims of a lot of things. But I'm so glad that they will get to hear your story and know that you're not a victim. You're still as awesome as you're God's child. So that's like the foundation of everything, no matter what happens. So thank you so much. So lastly, how can we connect with you? Your social media handles, projects, anything. How can we really connect with you?
All right. On Instagram and Twitter, it's at Itofa Ivarah. That's ITOFA IVARAH. So you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram at Itofa Ivarah. And then on Medium as well at Itofa Ivarah. That's like my tiny baby, my blog where I used to write from time to time. And then for Church on the Street, you can find us on Instagram at Church on the Street NG. So that's at Church on the Street NG. Join together, it's one word. And then our website, www.churchonthestreetng.org. www.churchonthestreetng.org. And to get a read all about us, you can volunteer. We're opening our volunteer quarters in October. I think, from tomorrow, tomorrow is going to be launched. And for 30 days, we're going to be accepting new volunteers who want to be part of the team, who want to be sharing ideas, share their skills with us, and so we take it from there. So yes, that's pretty much about it.
Amazing. Thank you so much so far for being on the JM show.
Congratulations, we're making significant progress on this journey already. Remember the journey I spoke about earlier? We are one step ahead right now. Please do not forget to share this podcast with a friend and leave a review on Apple Podcasts for us. I'm sure that by now you've subscribed to the show but if you haven't, do so now. You can follow the conversation on Instagram at thejm.show. We want to hear from you. We want to know what your nuggets were from this episode. You can also send in your questions via email or via voice notes. We would appreciate your support to keep the show going, so do well to make a donation. All the details will be in the show notes. Till next time, keep living.